Oak Island was recently revealed in the most startling turn in its 200-year mystery. The team led by Rick Lagina finds a forgotten, rusting machine. However, history is shattered when its gears are forced open. A brilliant riches is suddenly released from what appears to be garbage. More than $500 million in undiscovered riches. The island undergoes a permanent alteration in an instant. The air is filled with whispers of danger, treachery, and curses. Where did this incredible find originate? Who buried it so deeply in the ground on Oak Island? More significantly, what lethal secret was intended to keep it safe? This discovery starts a battle in addition to making history. Competitors fly around like vultures. The Laginas are faced with a dreadful decision as old stories come to life again. Keep the gold safe or else you could lose everything. Because there are always repercussions for treasure on Oak Island. Finding is no longer the goal of the hunt. It's a matter of survival. Because this narrative is only getting started, and the next discovery could alter everything you believe to be true about Oak Island. Subscribe now. In the lengthy and challenging history of Oak Island, the year 2019 would go down in history as a season that would never be forgotten. What started off as just another regular dig abruptly changed into something remarkable. Rick Lagina and his crew discovered something that no one could have predicted. Deep under the island's soil, gold valued at $500 million was hidden among the remains of an ancient, corroded machine. For Rick, this was more than just a revelation. It was a turning point in his lifetime quest. Both the burden of choice and the weight of the treasure were overwhelming. There was more to this than just gold. It was about preserving the decades of sacrifice that had led him to this point, defending his reputation and preserving the tenuous unity of his group. However, it quickly became clear that the hazards outweighed the benefits. Outsiders might claim the find if Rick didn't safeguard it. His crew's faith, which had already been eroded by years of close calls, would be shaken by rivals. The worst part was that failure would have diminished his legacy to just another warning about the curse of Oak Island. With each hour that went by, the pressure increased. The machinery moaned under the stress. Rick was aware that he was playing not just with luck, but also with loyalty and history itself, as the ground threatened to collapse. Nevertheless, there was no denying the allure of $500 million in gold. The tradition surrounding Oak Island might be altered by such a finding, which would definitively establish the mystery's existence. However, if handled carelessly, that same treasure had the potential to destroy everything. Then came the most disturbing insight of all. What if the discovery of the gold was never intended? A deeper mystery was hinted at by hints found with the treasure, which implied the riches was a part of something far older and riskier than anybody had anticipated, as if the stakes weren't already extremely high. A fresh surprise that nobody had anticipated was added in 2020. Rick Lagina bravely decided to bring in cutting-edge mining technology, the kind of machinery rarely seen outside of large industrial projects, to tackle the daunting task of retrieving $500 million in gold. Large excavation rigs, reinforced steel cages, and drills were sent to Oak Island with the promise of efficiency, speed, and a safer route to the riches. The move initially appeared to be the ideal answer. Layers of rock and dirt that would have taken the workers months to manually remove might be removed by the technology. It offered stability, accuracy, and the opportunity to eventually find the gold without having to worry about collapse all the time. However, everything on Oak Island came at a cost. There were risks associated with the machinery. The treasure might be crushed, buried farther, or perhaps lost forever with only one incorrect calibration or processing error. The weight of these machines made the island's shaky ground groan, as though the ground were opposing their encroachment. Then the arguments started. Certain team members completely supported Rick's choice, believing that technology was the only viable option. However, some cautioned that depending too much on robots could backfire, and that patience, not force, was the best way to unearth Oak Island's mysteries. Simmering tension started. Already brittle trust was put to the test once more as allegiances split between innovation and tradition. What had begun as an exciting discovery has now devolved into an intellectual battleground. Was this their only chance to seize the riches before strangers noticed? Or was Rick pressing the hard, too quickly? The island itself answered in the most surprising way just as the argument was about to blow out. A development that would rock the machinery and the men who ran it and demonstrate once more how difficult it is for Oak Island to divulge its secrets. In 2021, Oak Island had already seen decades of heartache, near misses, and the unrelenting search for a secret that had evaded innumerable treasure hunters before him. However, Rick Lagina could not have been prepared for what he was going to see. Rick stood on the brink of history following months of arduous excavation. His crew's combined efforts and the application of cutting-edge mining equipment. There was a slight, initially indiscernible sparkle beneath the debris. The faint shimmer eventually turned into a brilliant gleam as the team labored in tight stillness. While the gear buzzed, with his heart racing, Rick drew closer as the outline of gold started to show through the depths. Finally, a $500 million inheritance that had been concealed for generations and was just waiting to be claimed came to light. The emotional impact was profound and instantaneous. He was momentarily paralyzed by shock, as though the enormity of what was in front of him was too great for him to comprehend. Then he felt a wave of relief, an end to the years of stress, the innumerable hours spent excavating, the almost constant worry of failing, and the triumph that swept across it all like a tidal wave. It was Rick. He had discovered the treasure that had been rumored about in stories and conjectured about by both historians and dreamers, defying all odds in history itself. However, the occasion was more than just a financial triumph. It was an affirmation of a lifetime endeavor, an example of tenacity, and a tribute to his team's dedication and diligence. Every man and woman who had struggled with him took part in that particular moment. Their doubts were replaced by wonder, and their tiredness by excitement. Every expression was captured by cameras. However, the lens itself was unable to adequately capture the breadth of human emotion. In one unforgettable moment, shock, relief, delight, amazement, and pride all blended together. However, the tension was still evident even in the victory. Rick became aware of the magnitude of his current predicament. This hunt for riches has evolved. It was a pivotal moment that would change history, change lives, and draw attention from all across the world. It was a unique challenge to secure, catalog, and safeguard $500 million worth of gold, and decades of work could be undone by a single mistake. Rick nevertheless gave himself permission to just take in the significance of the finding. For a brief period of time, this moment was the result of every struggle, every failure, and every restless night. After following the plot from the very beginning, the audience now shares in the conclusion. It was a moment of intense passion, the kind that makes every risk, every sacrifice, and every hope of discovering something previously unthinkable seem justified. However, a faint, eerie suggestion surfaced as Rick and his group rejoiced. Even this enormous discovery was just the beginning. As evidenced by something buried with the wealth, it seems that Oak Island was hiding yet another secret. It is evident from reflecting on Oak Island's amazing journey that there is much more to this tale than gold. Although Rick Laganina's finding of $500 million in treasure is remarkable in and of itself, the real lessons are found in the journey, the hardship, and the unyielding will that enabled it. The value of patience and perseverance is demonstrated at every stage of the journey, from the initial setbacks, near misses, and uncertainties to the tense moments when sophisticated machinery threatened as much as it helped. Rick and his group had to overcome insurmountable obstacles, negotiate perilous terrain, and deal with psychological and monetary stress. But they continued. Every choice they made, every risk they took, and every setback they learned helped them go closer to the end goal. The narrative also emphasizes the value of leadership, cooperation, and trust. The crew's togetherness was put to the test time and time again, particularly when differences about technology and strategy surfaced. In the end, Rick's ability to strike a balance between authority and cooperation helped the team remain goal-focused. Their combined tenacity serves as a reminder that great accomplishments are rarely the product of lone individuals' efforts. They call for unwavering dedication and a common vision. However, Oak Island demonstrated that secrets never completely give in to human ambition. Even as the riches was discovered, unusual hints and concealed components implied that the finding was only a single component of a much bigger picture. The story turns into a metaphor in this way. Tremendous challenges frequently accompany tremendous rewards, and pursuing the unknown calls for bravery, flexibility, and respect for forces beyond of our control. In the end, Rick Saint, our control. In the end, Rick Saint. Story is one of optimism, tenacity, and the unwavering pursuit of the impossible, a monument to the human spirit. His finding shows us that success is determined by more than simply material wealth or notoriety. It is also determined by the lessons gained, the relationships forged, and the fortitude to keep going even in the face of uncertainty. Even while these lessons are obvious, Oak Island's deeper secrets are still hidden and patiently for the next chapter to be revealed. A reminder that there is always more adventure to be had. Gold is not the end of the story. Despite finding $500 million worth of treasure, Oak Island still keeps its secrets to itself. For those who are brave enough to search, there are undiscovered caches, secret passageways, and new hints hiding beneath the surface. Every new finding raises more queries than it does answers. Furthermore, the island consistently demonstrates that its riddles remain unsolved. What more will Rick Lagina discover? How will everything we believe to be true about this fabled hunt be altered by the next twist? The stakes are still very high. Human ambition, history, and fortune are all on the line. This is more than just a treasure tale for viewers. It's a continuous journey. Every hint, discovery, and obstacle serves as a reminder that exploring the unknown is never simple and not often the most important insights appear when you least expect them. The adventure is only getting started, so be sure to subscribe and follow along. The world might be shocked once more by the next discovery, which has the potential to completely alter everything. In the most shocking development in its 200-year mystery, Oak Island was recently made public after being concealed for generations. Rick Laganina's team discovers a rusted, abandoned machine, but when its gears are wrenched open, history is broken. What seems to be trash is suddenly transformed into beautiful wealth. Over $500 million in untapped wealth. In a moment, the island is permanently changed. There are rumors of peril, betrayal, and profanity in the air. Where did this amazing discovery come from? On Oak Island. Who buried it so deeply in the ground? More importantly, what deadly secret was meant to protect it? This revelation not only creates history, but also ignites a conflict. Rivals swoop about like vultures. As ancient tales resurrect, the Laginas must make a terrible choice. You risk losing everything if you don't protect the gold, because treasure on Oak Island usually has consequences. The hunt is no longer about finding. It's a survival issue. Subscribe now because this story is just beginning, and the next finding may change everything you thought you knew about Oak Island. 2019 will be remembered as a season that would never be forgotten in Oak Island's long and difficult history. Suddenly, what began as simply another ordinary jab turned into something extraordinary. Deep beneath the island's soil, Rick Lagina and his crew found something no one could have foreseen. The remains of an old, corroded machine contained $500 million worth of gold. This was more than a revelation for Rick. It marked a sea change in his life's journey. The weight of the treasure and the weight of decision were both too much to bear. This was not only about the gold. It was about protecting his reputation, maintaining the shaky unity of his group, and honoring the decades of sacrifice that had brought him this far. But it soon became evident that the risks were greater than the advantages. If Rick didn't protect the find, someone else might claim it. Rivals would shake his crew's faith, which had already been damaged by years of near misses. The saddest thing was that if he had failed, his legacy would have been reduced to another cautionary tale about Oak Island's curse. The pressure rose with every hour that passed. The stress caused the machines to groan. The ground was about to fall, and Rick knew he was playing not only with luck, but with loyalty and history itself. Still, the attraction of $500 million in gold was irresistible. Such a discovery would unquestionably prove the mystery's existence, and could change the tradition around Oak Island. But that same wealth could ruin everything if it were handled carelessly. Then the most unsettling realization of all occurred. What if the gold was never supposed to be found? Hints discovered with the treasure suggested that it was part of something far older and riskier than anybody had expected, hinting at a greater mystery. The stakes were already very high, but in 2020, there was an additional bombshell that no one had foreseen. To take on the difficult challenge of recovering $500 million in gold, Rick Laganina courageously made the decision to bring in state-of-the-art mining equipment, the kind of machinery rarely seen outside of huge industrial undertakings. With the promise of effectiveness, speed, and a safer path to the riches, large excavation rigs, drills, and reinforced steel cages were shipped to Oak Island. At first, the move seemed like the perfect solution. The device may be able to remove layers of rock and debris that would have taken the workers months to remove by hand. It provided accuracy, stability, and the chance to eventually find the gold without constantly worrying about collapsing. But there was a price for everything on Oak Island. The machinery was not without its hazards. A single inaccurate calibration or processing error could result in the treasure being crushed, buried deeper, or possibly lost forever. The weak ground on the island groaned under the weight of these equipment, as if the ground were resisting their intrusion. Then the arguments began. Some team members thought that technology was the only practical alternative, so they fully supported Rick's decision. Some, however, warned that relying too heavily on robots could backfire and that the only approach to solve the riddles of Oak Island was to use patience rather than force. Tensions began to simmer. As loyalties shifted between innovation and tradition, already fragile trust was tested again. What started off as a fascinating discovery has now turned into a battlefield of ideas. Was Rick pushing too hard, too fast, or was this their only chance to grab the wealth before strangers noticed? Just as the disagreement was about to burst out, the island itself gave the most unexpected response, upending the machinery and the men who operated it and highlighting once again how hard it is for Oak Island to reveal its secrets. Decades of heartbreak, near misses, and the relentless pursuit of a secret that had eluded countless treasure seekers. Before him had already occurred on Oak Island in 2021. Rick Lagina, however, could not have been ready for what he was about to witness. After months of grueling excavation, the combined efforts of his crew, and the use of state-of-the-art mining equipment, Rick found himself on the precipice of history. Beneath the rubble was a faint, at first inaudible glimmer. As the team worked in strict silence and the equipment buzzed, the dim shimmer finally transformed into a bright brilliance. Rick drew nearer as the outline of gold began to emerge through the depths, his heart pounding. After being hidden for centuries, a $500 million inheritance that was simply waiting to be claimed finally surfaced. The emotional impact was immediate and strong. Shock immobilized him for a moment, as if the magnitude of what he was seeing was too overwhelming for him to process. Then a flood of relief washed over him. The years of worry are over. The triumph that swept over everything like a tidal wave, the endless hours spent digging, and the nearly constant fear of failing. Rick was the one. Despite all chances and history itself, he had found the treasure that had been speculated about by historians and dreamers, and rumored about in myths. But the event was more than just a financial success. It was a testament to his team's commitment and hard work, a confirmation of a lifelong endeavor, and an illustration of perseverance. In that moment, all the men and women who had fought alongside him participated. Wonder took the place of their doubts, and excitement took the place of their fatigue. Cameras recorded all the expressions. The range of human feeling, however, was too great for the lens to fully depict. Shock, relief, happiness, wonder, and pride all merged in one moment that will never be forgotten. Even with the triumph, though, the tension was still present. Rick realized how serious his current situation was. This pursuit of wealth has changed. It was a turning point that would alter history, transform lives, and garner international attention. Securing, cataloging, and protecting gold valued over $500 million was a special problem, and a single error may destroy decades of labor. However, Rick allowed himself to simply absorb the gravity of the discovery for a few moments. Every hardship, every setback, every sleepless night culminated in this moment. The audience now shares in the ending after following the plot from the start. It was a passionate moment, the kind that justifies every risk, every sacrifice, and every dream of learning something that had never been imagined before. But while Rick and his group celebrated, a subtle, unsettling idea emerged. Something buried with the wealth showed that even this huge discovery was only the beginning. Oak Island was apparently concealing yet another secret. Thinking back on Oak Island's incredible journey makes it clear that this story is about much more than just gold. The true lessons are in the journey, the struggle, and the unwavering resolve that made it possible. Even though Rick Laganina's discovery of $500 million in treasure is amazing in and of itself, from the early setbacks, near misses, and uncertainty to the stressful moments, every hardship, every setback, every sleepless night culminated in this moment. The audience now shares in the ending after following the plot from the start. It was a passionate moment, the kind that justifies every risk, every sacrifice, and every dream of learning something that had never been imagined before. But while Rick and his group celebrated, a subtle, unsettling idea emerged. Something buried with the wealth showed that even this huge discovery was only the beginning. Oak Island was apparently concealing yet another secret. Thinking back on Oak Island's incredible journey makes it clear that this story is about much more than just gold. The true lessons are in the journey, the struggle, and the unwavering resolve that made it possible. Even though Rick Laganina's discovery of $500 million in treasure is amazing in and of itself, from the early setbacks, near misses, and uncertainty to the stressful moments when sophisticated machinery threatened, as much as it helped, the importance of patience and perseverance is evident at every stage of the voyage. Rick and his team had to traverse dangerous terrain, overcome unfathomable challenges, and cope with financial and emotional strain. However, they went on. Every decision they made, every chance they took, and every lesson they acquired brought them one step closer to their ultimate objective. The importance of trust, collaboration, and leadership is also emphasized throughout the story. The crew's unity was repeatedly tested, especially when disagreements arose on strategy and technology. The team was ultimately able to stay goal-focused because to Rick's ability to blend authority with cooperation. Their joint perseverance serves as a reminder that solo efforts rarely result in significant achievements. They demand a shared vision and unflinching dedication. Even when the riches were unearthed, Oak Island showed that human ambition never fully subdues mysteries. The discovery was simply one part of a much larger picture, as suggested by strange clues and hidden elements. In this sense, the story becomes a metaphor. Pursuing the unknown requires courage, adaptability, and respect for forces beyond of our control. Great challenges often come with great rewards. Ultimately, Rick's narrative is a testament to the human spirit, one of hope, perseverance, and the unwavering pursuit of the impossible. His discovery demonstrates that success is based on more than just financial gain or celebrity. It is also based on the knowledge acquired, the connections made, and the perseverance to face adversity head-on. Despite the obviousness of these lessons, the deeper truths of Oak Island remain hidden and anxiously await the next chapter. A reminder that adventure is never-ending. The story doesn't end with gold. Even after discovering treasure valued at $500 million, Oak Island continues to conceal its secrets. There are new hints, hidden passageways, and undiscovered caches waiting for those who are willing to search. More questions than answers are raised by every new discovery. Moreover, the island continuously proves that its mysteries are still unanswered. Will Rick or Janina find out more? How will the next surprise change what we thought we knew about this legendary hunt? The stakes remain quite high. Fortune, history, and human ambition are all at stake. For viewers, this is more than simply a treasure trove. It's an ongoing adventure. Every clue, finding, and challenge serves as a reminder that venturing into the unknown is never easy, and that frequently the most significant revelations come as a surprise. Make sure to follow along and subscribe, as the experience is just getting started. With the potential to change everything, the next discovery could shock TH.